Hi everybody, I'm Matt from SomaSim, and I'm back with another episode of our video developer blog showcasing our game City of Gangsters that is coming out later this year. If this is your first episode, we've got lots of others that you can go check out, but City of Gangsters is our mafia management game set during Prohibition in various American cities. And today we want to talk to you about some of those American cities and how they play a role in City of Gangsters. We are looking at our hometown, Chicago. It's the city in which we developed most of the game systems and built everything out because, well, it's home, and Chicago and Prohibition are sort of well known for their associations. So the geography, if you're familiar with Chicago, is as we've got it laid out here, with the river and the two branches flowing into Lake Michigan. Downtown is in the Loop, and we've added some districts since then, so we've got Goose Island up here, and Lincoln Park up here. And if we zoom into downtown, you'll see that there's a lot of civic buildings and a lot of these bigger office buildings that are downtown. We've got more of those coming, so downtown will start to look a little bit different. And then if we just go across the river into the north side here, you'll see that the density of those big buildings drops away, and you've just got more commercial buildings and residences and things like that. And all of these buildings were inspired by actual buildings in the city. So it's another good reflection of our hometown. And then if we keep going up north, then we'll come into Lincoln Park, and we'll see that in this business district there's some of the larger commercial buildings clustering again up there. One of the things that is also coming up is in a neighborhood like Goose Island, which is very industrial. We're going to have industrial and port areas that come in, so there'll be large industrial buildings and some opportunities for players to access some interesting prohibited goods from those port areas. So just to talk a little bit about the procedural generation, we have these areas that are set, and we have the basic geography. We've forced some of the streets to be in place, so like Milwaukee Avenue runs up here, and it's been interrupted by this train in this particular map. So we've kept some of the big diagonal streets like Archer Avenue down here on the southwest side. But then we sort of let the game kind of do its thing and create different size blocks, different times. Different train lines will run different places. Over here in back of the yards, this cool train junction that we've got that showed up over here. So yeah, that's sort of how Chicago is looking and how we've brought our hometown into City of Gangsters. And now we'd like to talk about the two other cities that we've got in the game, which are Detroit and Pittsburgh. And next we'll hit Pittsburgh because it's the more complete of the other two cities that we've got in the game. So I'll be back in a moment, and we'll have a look at Pittsburgh. Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to the Steel City. We are now in Pittsburgh. I grew up not far from Pittsburgh, so I have a lot of experience with this particular city and know how it looks and how it was laid out, so I brought a lot of that into the game as well. The first thing you'll notice about Pittsburgh that's different from Chicago is it has hills. There are lots of hills that sort of break up the city and create these interesting pockets of neighborhoods, like over here in Carnegie. It's sort of separated from the rest of the city and only really accessible by this one little street up here into the rest. So again, that's a procedural thing. The hills will shift around a little bit, and the neighborhoods will lay out differently every time. So in Pittsburgh, you end up with some interesting little neighborhoods that have choke points and other things like that. Like over here on the south side by Homestead, south of Monongahela River, you've got this kind of neighborhood that's really only connected by these couple of bridges over here and by this one street access from over there through the hills. So you've got some interesting geography that's happening in Pittsburgh because of the hills and the rivers and all of the bridges and everything like that. So that's an interesting geographic challenge that you have in Pittsburgh that you're not going to see necessarily in Chicago, which is a large open grid system. Pittsburgh is sort of more chaotically formed every time the prot-gen happens. The other thing is we have, my family name is Yugoslavian. The ethnic distributions vary in each city based on how they would have appeared in the census records in 1920. So, for instance, in Pittsburgh, there were a lot of people from what is now Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, Slovenia, but then would have been called Yugoslavia and been listed as Yugoslavians. Also in Pittsburgh, you're going to find some Welsh people. Because of all of the mining and other activities like that, there were a lot of people from Wales who had experience in mining that came into the Pittsburgh area. Another thing about Pittsburgh is that it has unique housing that you don't find in Chicago. So in Chicago, we have a lot of brick buildings, because of the fire in 1871, but Pittsburgh has a lot of these wooden-sided houses that you're not going to see in Chicago. So, like, you'll see this one on the corner, then it has some of these duplexes that are sort of unique to Pittsburgh. So in the residential buildings, we've sort of tried to bring some of the unique flavor of Pittsburgh into the game through these houses that you see, like all of these sided houses that are all along this street. One other thing that's unique about Pittsburgh, there are a few others, but I just want to touch on the resources that happen in Pittsburgh. If I can toggle the UI back on, we can have a look. And if we go into the safe house that my family runs, which is this lunch counter, we'll see that one of the things here is Applejack, which is not something that you would find in Chicago, and it's made a little bit differently than the alcohol that you might run into in Chicago. It is made by taking apple cider that you sort of let ferment, and then you take some ice and you freeze it. And since alcohol freezes at a much lower temperature than water, the water freezes out, you pull the ice out, and you do that a few times, and you have what is sort of a brandy of sorts that in the US we call Applejack. And it's a very old way of making alcohol that would have happened in the winter and with snow and in ponds and things like that. So we brought that into Pittsburgh as one of the unique kinds of alcohol you can make. You can also make rakia, which is a fruit brandy that people from Yugoslavia would have brought with them. So again, there's a production that's sort of linked to the ethnic makeup of the city as it was reflected in 1920. So that's a quick overview of how Pittsburgh differs from Chicago. And Pittsburgh, as I said, is the most complete after Chicago of our other cities that we're preparing to have before launch. So now we'll look at the third one. We'll come back and have a look at Detroit. Welcome to the Motor City, everyone. We are now looking at Detroit, Michigan. And this is, again, based on the street layout loosely of how it would have been in 1920. Detroit is still a work in progress. We're still working on adding the unique resources and some of the unique businesses and things that will go in Detroit. The biggest thing that's missing is, if you look over here, south of the Detroit River, is Windsor, Ontario, which is now just a forest of trees. Detroit was one of the biggest entry points for illegal alcohol in the United States during Prohibition because of Canada being over here. Since there were no bridges over the river in 1920, we're still trying to figure out exactly how we're going to integrate Canada into the game, but we have some thoughts that we're going to be working on in the next few weeks, and hopefully have more to share about Detroit soon. Detroit also has no districts yet. Those will be added as well. We're still doing a little research to see where the industrial districts versus the more commercial districts in Detroit in 1920 would have been. I know that there would have been a lot of industry over here along the river that flows into the Detroit River. So we'll be adding some factories and industrial zones over there. My character in this case is Greek. There were a lot of Greek immigration into Detroit area, so you'll find some Greek people in Detroit that you wouldn't find in Pittsburgh or Chicago in the concentrations that you find them in Detroit. So again, that's from 1920 census data. So yeah, we'll be adding a lot more into Detroit in the next few weeks, unique resources, its districts, and we'll figure out what the heck we're going to do about Canada, and hopefully have more to share with you then. And I'll be right back with some finishing thoughts and a little surprise that we're working on. Hi everybody, welcome to the Mystery City. If you think you have an idea which city this might be, post it in the comments, and we'll see if you can figure out what city we might be working on here as a possible added bonus for City of Gangsters when it releases. Just a few more thoughts about the recent developments in the game. We are now finishing up a closed beta, and thank you to everybody who participated in that if you're watching. It was a great experience, and we've learned a lot from doing that with everybody. We may have another opportunity for a wider group of people to have access to the game coming soon, so if you're not following us on Steam, head over there and follow us on Steam, or sign up for our newsletter. We'll be sharing information about that as well. So until next time, let us know what you think the Mystery City is in the comments, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.